Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
The coffin was too small. August Rayner stood motionless in his workshop, staring at the polished pine box he'd crafted with his own hands. 3 feet long. Just enough for a child. Just enough for his daughter. His calloused fingers traced the smooth edge of the wood. No splinters. Nothing that would hurt her, though she couldn't feel pain anymore. Not according to what the doctors had told him, that a rare illness, they'd said. Sudden onset. Nothing they could do. August's jaw tightened. The workshop around him, usually his sanctuary, felt hollow now. The door creaked open behind him. He didn't turn. "It's beautiful," Marla said, her voice even. Too even. August didn't answer. His wife's heels clicked across the concrete floor, the sound sharp and intrusive in the sacred silence of his grief. "The funeral home called," she continued. "They need it by 4. August nodded once, still not looking at her. "I know. I've been thinking," Marla said, closer now. "After this is all. After we get through this, maybe we should consider moving. Starting fresh." August's hands froze on the coffin. "She's not even in the ground yet." "I know that," Marla said, a hint of irritation breaking through her carefully composed tone. "But we need to think about the future. This town, this house, it would just be a constant reminder." August finally turned. His wife stood before him in a black dress that hugged her slender frame, her blonde hair pulled back into a neat bun. Not a strand out of place. Not a smudge in her makeup. 3 days after their daughter had been pronounced dead, and she looked like she was headed to a business meeting. "No," he said simply. Marla's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. "August, be reasonable. There's nothing keeping us here now. We could." I said no. His voice came out harder than he'd intended, but he didn't soften it. "This is Junie's home. Our home." A flash of something frustration, anger, crossed Marla's face before she composed herself again. "Fine. We'll discuss it later." She checked her watch. "I need to confirm the catering for after the service. And I still need to pick up my shoes for tomorrow." August turned back to the coffin. "Shopping. That's what you're doing today." Marla sighed. "Don't start, August. We all grieve differently. I need to stay busy." The door closed behind her. August waited until he heard her car start, then sank to his knees beside the coffin, one hand still resting on the wood. Only then did he allow a single tear to fall. The Rayners' house was full of people August barely knew. Neighbors, distant relatives, his wife's college friends. They moved around him like shadows, offering platitudes he couldn't hear over the roaring in his ears. "She's in a better place. Time heals all wounds. At least she didn't suffer long." August stood in the corner of his living room, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand, watching Marla work the room. She moved from group to group, accepting hugs, nodding at sympathetic words, occasionally dabbing at eyes that remained remarkably dry. Harlow approached him, her normally wild brown hair subdued into a ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. Unlike the others, his sister didn't offer platitudes. "This is bullshit," she said quietly, standing next to him. "All these people pretending they knew Junie." August took the first sip of his whiskey. "Marla invited them." Harlow snorted. "Of course she did. Always did love being the center of attention." She caught herself. "Sorry, not the time." "It's fine." August's eyes followed his wife as she accepted a hug from a tall man with carefully styled hair. Her hand lingered on his arm a moment too long. "Who's that?" Harlow asked, following his gaze. "Bryce Maddox. They went to college together. He moved back last year. Opened that fancy gym downtown." Harlow studied the man. "Looks like a jackass." Despite everything, August felt the corner of his mouth twitch. "He is." Marla laughed at something Bryce said, the sound cutting through the somber murmurs of the room. August's fingers tightened around his glass. 3 days, he muttered. 3 days, and she's laughing. Harlow put a hand on his arm. "Hey, don't do this to yourself. Tomorrow's going to be hard enough." August nodded, downing the rest of his whiskey in one gulp. "I need some air," he said. Outside on the porch, the evening air was thick with fog that clung to the towering pines surrounding their property. The door opened behind him. He expected Harlow, but it was Marla who stepped onto the porch. "You're being rude," she said without preamble. August didn't look at her. I needed a minute. These people came to support us. They came because you invited them, he corrected. Most of them never even met Junie. Marla crossed her arms. That's not fair. They're here for both of us. Where's your friend? August asked, changing the subject. Who? Bryce. You two seem to have a lot to laugh about. Marla's eyes narrowed. Don't. Not today. When then? After the funeral? When we're moving on? When we're selling the house? You're drunk. I had one drink. August finally turned to look at her. Why are you in such a hurry to leave, Marla? This town not good enough for you anymore. That's not. Marla cut herself off, visibly gathering her composure. I'm not doing this now. Our daughter is dead. August. Dead. And all you can think about is picking a fight with me. August stared at her, searching her face for any sign of genuine grief. All he saw was calculation. I'm staying at the funeral home tonight, he said abruptly. Marla blinked. What? Why would you do that? It's tradition. Someone stays with the body. That's ridiculous. You need rest. Tomorrow will be. I'm staying. August repeated firmly. I'll be back in the morning to change before the service. Marla looked like she wanted to argue further, but something in his expression must have stopped her. Fine, she said tightly. Do what you need to do. The funeral home was silent except for the steady tick of an antique clock on the wall. August sat in a straight-back chair beside the closed coffin in the private viewing room. The funeral director had tried to dissuade him from his vigil, citing policy, but August had been adamant. He would not leave his daughter alone for her last night. The hours crept by. Midnight came and went. August didn't move from his post, his eyes never leaving the coffin, in the still hours of the early morning. When the world outside was at its darkest, August heard it. At first, he thought he'd imagined it a product of grief and exhaustion that a small, muffled voice that he held his breath, listening intently. Nothing, just the tick of the clock and the sound of his own heartbeat. Then it came again, clearer this time. Help me, Daddy. August shot to his feet, knocking over his chair. That was Junie's voice, his daughter's voice. Junie, he called, his voice cracking. Daddy, it's dark. The voice was coming from inside the coffin. Impossible. She was dead. The doctors had confirmed it. Marla had identified the body, but that was his daughter's voice. August didn't hesitate. He grabbed the lid of the coffin and wrenched it open, splitting the wood he'd so carefully joined. The nails screeched as they pulled free. What he saw inside froze his blood. Junie lay there, her small body draped in the white dress Marla had chosen. But her eyes were open, glazed and unfocused, but open. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, and around her tiny wrist was a thin metal chain, securing her to the coffin lining. Junie, August breathed, reaching for her. Her skin was cool, but not cold. Not dead. Junie, baby, can you hear me? Her eyes struggled to focus on him. Daddy, she mumbled. So dark. Scared. August's hands shook as he picked her up, cradling her against his chest. Her body was limp, drugged. Someone had drugged his daughter. This wasn't a miracle. This wasn't a mistake. This was attempted murder. As he held his living daughter in his arms, August's mind raced. If he called for help now, what would happen? Questions. Investigations. And whoever had done this, whoever had tried to bury his daughter alive, would know their plan had failed. August looked down at Junie's drooping eyes, the chain still dangling from her wrist. No, he couldn't risk it. Not yet. He needed to understand what was happening before he revealed that he knew. He needed to protect his daughter. First, he had to remove any evidence that he'd discovered the truth. August gently laid Junie on the chair and went to work repairing the coffin lid as best he could in the dark. When it looked passable, he turned back to his daughter. Junie, he whispered, stroking her hair. I need you to be very quiet. Can you do that for Daddy? She nodded weakly. Good girl. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. But it has to be our secret. Okay, secret, she repeated, her voice slurring. August wrapped his jacket around her small body and slipped out the back door of the funeral home, carrying his daughter into the foggy night. He had until morning to hide her and return before anyone realized what he'd discovered. And then he would find out who had tried to kill his little girl. Dawn was breaking as August slipped back into the funeral home. He'd taken Junie to Harlow's remote cabin just outside of town, the one place he knew would be safe. His sister had been shocked, horrified, and then grimly determined as he'd explained what little he knew. Stay with her, he'd instructed. Don't tell anyone. Don't leave for any reason. Harlow had nodded, already tucking the sleepy child into her bed. What about the funeral? Go on as planned. I need whoever did this to think they've succeeded. Now, back at the funeral home, August straightened his rumpled clothes and prepared to face the day. The funeral director approached with a sympathetic smile. Mr. Rayner, how was your night? August cleared his throat. Fine. Thank you for allowing me to stay. Inside the coffin, August had arranged blankets to approximate a child's body. It would have to do. An hour later, he stood in his bedroom at home, mechanically changing into the suit Marla had laid out for him. His mind was racing, examining every detail of the past weeks, searching for clues. Junie had been sick. That much was true. But what if the illness itself had been engineered? What if someone had been poisoning his daughter, planning to use her death as cover for it? Kidnapping? Murder? The bathroom door opened, and Marla emerged wearing a black dress, her hair and makeup immaculate. She paused when she saw him. You look awful, she said. August didn't respond, watching her reflection in the mirror as he adjusted his tie. Did you sleep at all? She pressed. No. Marla sighed. August, I know this is hard, but you need to pull yourself together. People will be watching us today. August turned to face her. Watching us? Yes. This is a small town. People talk. She stepped closer, straightening his already straight tie. We need to present a united front. Is that what matters to you right now? How we look? Marla's fingers stilled. That's not fair. You know I'm devastated. August searched her face, looking for any sign of the grief she claimed to feel. Her eyes were clear, her makeup perfect, not a hint of the sleepless nights he'd endured since Junie fell ill. We should get going, she said, stepping back. The service starts in an hour. August nodded, his decision made. He would play along. He would watch. And he would find out exactly what his wife knew about their daughter's supposed death. The funeral was a blur. August stood beside the small coffin, accepting condolences from neighbors and friends, his eyes constantly tracking Marla as she moved through the crowd. She performed grief perfectly, a trembling lip here, a dabbed eye there, leaning on friends for support at just the right moments. Bryce Maddox was there, offering his condolences with a hand that lingered too long on Marla's shoulder. August noted how she leaned into the touch. When it came time to lower the coffin, August steeled himself for the performance of his life. He allowed a single tear to track down his cheek as he tossed a handful of dirt onto the pine box. Beside him, Marla dabbed at dry eyes with a lace handkerchief. That night, after the last of the mourners had left their home, August retreated to his workshop. He needed space to think, to plan. But more than that, he needed to search for evidence. He started in Junie's room, carefully going through her belongings, looking for anything unusual. Finding nothing, he moved to the master bedroom, waiting until Marla was in the shower before searching her side of the room. In the back of her nightstand drawer, beneath a stack of fashion magazines, he found a burner phone. Basic model. No password protection. Heart pounding, August scrolled through the sparse messages. Most were to and from a contact listed simply as being everything set for Friday. BS. Doctor says it's untraceable. Marla, and after, be freedom at last. Marla, the most recent message, sent the morning of the funeral. When it's done, we'll have everything we wanted. August's hands shook with rage. He took photos of the messages with his own phone, then returned the burner to its hiding place just as the shower shut off. He needed more evidence. And he needed to understand why. Why would Marla want to fake their daughter's death? Why chain her inside a coffin? Over the next few days, August maintained a facade of a grieving father while secretly investigating. He checked Junie's medical records, speaking with her doctor under the guise of seeking closure. It's just so sudden, he told the nervous young physician. One day she's fine, the next she's gone. Dr. Finnan shuffled papers on his desk. As I explained to your wife, the toxicology showed a congenital heart defect. It was just a matter of time. My wife, August asked, keeping his voice even. She spoke with you about Junie's condition? The doctor nodded. Several times over the past few months. She was very concerned about Junie's symptoms. What symptoms were those? Dr. Finnan looked confused. The one she brought Junie in for. The fatigue, the dizziness. Didn't she tell you? August managed a sad smile. We haven't been communicating well since it happened. Grief affects people differently. The doctor nodded sympathetically. Of course. Here, let me show you the test results. The papers he handed over meant nothing to August's medical jargon and numbers that could have been fabricated easily enough with the right connections. May I see the actual toxicology report? August asked. After more gentle insistence, the doctor reluctantly pulled up the report on his computer. August scanned it, noting the signature at the bottom, B. Maddox, lab director. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture too terrible to contemplate. His wife and her lover had conspired to fake their daughter's death. But why go to such extremes? Why not just leave? Unless Junie had seen something, known something, become a liability. That night, August visited Harlow's cabin again. Junie was recovering slowly from whatever drugs had been in her system. She recognized him immediately, reaching for him with a cry of "Daddy." He held her tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair, reassuring himself that she was really alive. "How is she?" he asked Harlow, who looked exhausted but determined. "Better. She's been talking more, eating a little." August nodded gratefully. "Have you asked her anything about what happened?" Harlow shook her head. "I thought you should be the one." August sat on the edge of the bed, taking Junie's small hand in his. "Junie, sweetheart, can you tell Daddy what happened? Before you got sick?" Junie's face scrunched up in concentration. "Mommy gave me yucky juice. Said it would make me feel better." "Yucky juice? Like medicine?" She nodded. "Every day. Made me sleepy." August exchanged a look with Harlow. "Did anything else happen? Did you see Mommy doing anything unusual?" Junie looked down, suddenly shy. "Mommy said not to tell. It's a secret." August's heart raced. What kind of secret? Mommy and the gym man were playing a special game. In the garage. "Gym man?" Harlow asked. "I think she means Bryce," August said quietly, then turned back to Junie. "What kind of game, sweetheart?" Junie's description, in the innocent language of a 3-year-old, confirmed August's worst fears. Marla and Bryce had been having an affair, and Junie had witnessed it. "Did you tell Mommy that you saw them?" Junie nodded. She got mad. Said I was a bad girl for watching. Said I couldn't tell Daddy. August pulled his daughter close, his mind racing. Now he understood. Junie had become a witness, a liability. Rather than risk the child revealing the affair, they concocted an elaborate plan to eliminate her entirely. "I need to get back," he told Harlow, kissing Junie's forehead. "Keep her safe. I'm getting closer to understanding what happened." As he drove back to town, August's grief transformed into something harder and colder. He'd never considered himself a violent man. He built things. He didn't destroy them. But for the people who had tried to murder his daughter, he would become destruction itself. Back at home, August maintained his performance as the grieving father. He accepted casseroles from neighbors. He thanked people for their sympathy cards. He nodded when they told him how strong he was being. All the while, he watched Marla. She was already packing boxes, preparing for what she called a fresh start. She'd reached out to a realtor about listing their house. "It's too soon." August had protested, playing his part. "It's been a week, August. We can't put our lives on hold forever." Marla folded another sweater into a suitcase. "I've been thinking about San Diego. The ocean would be good for us." August leaned against the doorframe of their bedroom. "Us?" Marla looked up, her expression carefully neutral. "Of course us. We're still a family, August. We still have each other." The casual cruelty of her statement made, while she believed their daughter was dead and buried, almost broke his composure. August swallowed hard. "I didn't realize you liked the ocean that much." Marla shrugged. "There's a lot about me you don't know." That much is true. August thought grimly that he waited until Marla left for her yoga class before continuing his investigation. The burner phone had already told him much, but he needed more. He needed proof solid enough that even if Marla tried to paint him as unstable or delusional, the truth would prevail that I in the garage. he searched meticulously. Behind a stack of paint cans, he found a small cloth bag. Inside were cloths stained with what looked like blood, and several empty medicine bottles with the labels removed. In the cellar, a space Marla never entered. Claiming it aggravated her allergies, August found more damning evidence. A hidden box contained surveillance equipment, small cameras, microphones, and receipts for their purchase in Bryce's name. Most disturbing of all was a child's blanket, Junie's favorite, stained with substances August didn't want to identify. That night, after Marla had gone to bed, August slipped into Junie's room. He carefully went through her things. In a shoebox beneath her bed, he found her drawings. Colorful crayon sketches of their family, their house, her toys. And then, hidden at the bottom, darker drawings. A woman and man in the garage. A red bottle labeled medicine. And a crude map showing their house, the road to town, and deep in the woods, a small square marked with a red X. August recognized the location. An old hunting cabin, abandoned for years, far off any marked trail. He'd come across it once while tracking a wounded deer. Remote, isolated, perfect for hiding someone who wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Dawn was breaking as August hiked through the dense forest, following paths only hunters and wildlife knew. The cabin appeared just as he remembered it: small, weathered, nearly invisible among the thick pines. The door was locked, but the wood was so rotted that one solid kick splintered it open. Inside, August found confirmation of his worst fears. The single room had been converted into a prison. Chains bolted to the wall, a small cot, a bucket in the corner. On a table, surveillance equipment displayed feeds from cameras hidden throughout August and Marla's house. They had been watching him, planning, waiting. August examined everything carefully, taking photos with his phone. On a corkboard, he found notes in Bryce's handwriting, details of their plan, including the drugs used to simulate death, the payoffs to the funeral director, the schedule for the burial. But it was the final note that chilled August to his core. After the funeral, signs over the house. We collect insurance, leave town. 1 week later, accident at the cabin, fire. All evidence gone. They had never intended to keep Junie alive. The funeral had just been the first phase of their plan. August gathered every piece of evidence he could find, securing it all in his truck. Then he returned to town, his mind clear for the first time since hearing Junie's voice from the coffin. He knew what they had done. He knew why. Now it was time for Marla to learn what happens when you try to take everything from a man with nothing left to lose. August waited for Marla in the living room. Evidence spread across the coffee table. His wife's burner phone, the bloodstained cloths, photos of the cabin, Junie's drawings, a damning collection that told a story of betrayal beyond imagination. The front door opened, and Marla called out, "August, are you home? I've got takeout from that Thai place you like." August didn't respond. He heard her set down bags in the kitchen, heard her heels on the hardwood as she moved through the house. August. She appeared in the doorway, still wearing her designer workout clothes, her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. Her expression shifted from curious to concerned when she saw him sitting silently in the dim room. "What are you doing sitting in the dark?" she asked, reaching for the light switch. "Don't," August said quietly. Marla's hand froze. "What's wrong? You're scaring me." "Am I?" August gestured to the coffee table. "Take a look." Marla stepped closer, her eyes falling on the items spread before him. He watched her closely, saw the moment recognition dawned, saw the flicker of fear quickly masked by confusion. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice steady. "Too steady. You tell me." Marla picked up the burner phone. "Where did you find this?" "In your nightstand, under your magazines." She sat down carefully. "This isn't mine. I've never seen it before." August laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "That's your play?" "Denial." "It's not a play, August. I don't know what you think you found, but our daughter is alive." The words hung in the air between them. Marla froze, her face a perfect mask of shock that didn't reach her eyes. "What are you talking about?" "August, you're not making sense. The grief is—" "Stop." August stood, towering over her. "I found her, Marla, in the coffin, chained, drugged, but alive." Marla took a step back, her composure slipping. "That's impossible. You're not well." You need help. I've been helping myself, August said, picking up the photos of the cabin. Interesting place, that old hunting cabin, set up like a prison or a tomb. Marla's eyes darted to the photos, then back to his face. I don't know what you're talking about. Cameras in our house. Listening devices. You and Bryce have been watching me. Planning. But you made one mistake. August leaned closer. You didn't make sure she was actually dead before you closed the coffin. A flash of genuine emotion crossed Marla's face, not guilt or remorse, but anger. You're insane, she hissed. Our daughter is dead. You were there. You saw her buried. August shook his head. I saw an empty coffin buried. Junie is safe. And she's talking, Marla. Telling me about the yucky juice you gave her every day. About the games she saw you playing with the gym man in our garage. Marla's face hardened. Even if any of this were true, which it's not, who do you think people would believe? The grieving, unstable father who dug up his daughter's grave? Or the devoted mother trying to help her husband through a psychotic break? That's your defense? That I'm crazy. August gestured to the evidence. The police won't think so. Marla's lips curled into a cold smile. The police? You think they'll believe you over me? The respectable business owner's daughter against the backwoods carpenter. She picked up Junie's drawing, examining it with detached interest. This is your evidence? A child scribble. August watched her, seeing for the first time the true Marla, calculating, cold, utterly without remorse. Why? He asked simply. Why not just leave? Why this elaborate plan? Marla sighed, dropping the pretense. You really don't understand, do you? This house, this land, it's worth a fortune. And your life insurance? Even more. Divorce would get me half, at best. This way I get everything. And Junie, Marla's expression hardened. She complicated things. Children talk, August. They say the most inconvenient things at the worst possible times. August's hands curled into fists. She's your daughter. She's a reminder of a life I never wanted. Marla straightened, smoothing her workout top. It doesn't matter now. You have no real proof. Your word against mine. And by tomorrow, I'll have a restraining order against you for threatening me during a psychological break. She turned to leave, but August's voice stopped her. I never said where I took her. Marla glanced back. What? Junie. I never said where I'm keeping her. Safe from you. Safe from Bryce. August's voice was deadly calm. If anything happens to me, evidence goes to the police, the newspapers, and everyone in town. Pictures, videos, recordings, everything. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Marla's face. You're bluffing. Test me, August challenged. See what happens when you try to take everything from a man who's already lost it all. They stared at each other, the air between them charged with hatred and the remnants of a life built on lies. Finally, Marla spoke, her voice cold. This isn't over, August. No, he agreed. It's just beginning. After she left the room, August gathered the evidence, securing it in his workshop safe. He had no illusions about what would happen next. Marla would counterattack. She'd try to discredit him, isolate him, maybe even eliminate him, that he needed help. Someone with connections the respectable Marla Rayner couldn't touch. He needed his sister. DeHarlow's apartment, above the local bar, wasn't much. Two small rooms cluttered with secondhand furniture and the odds and ends of life frequently interrupted by addiction. But she'd been clean for 8 months now, and it showed in the fresh flowers on the windowsill and the neatly organized kitchen. Holy shit, she said after August explained the confrontation with Marla. She actually admitted it? Just like that. August nodded grimly. Once she realized I knew, there was no point pretending, and she thinks she'll get away with it. Harlow paced the small living room, running her hands through her wild hair. That's sociopathic. She's confident, connected. August leaned against the counter. Her father's the biggest real estate developer in the county. Half the town owes him favors. Harlow stopped pacing. So what's the plan? We have Junie. We have evidence. Let's go to the police. August shook his head. Not yet. We need more. Something they can't ignore or explain away. He pulled out his phone, scrolling to the photos of the cabin. These prove someone set up surveillance, but they don't prove it was Marla and Bryce. The burner phone could be dismissed as meaningless texts. Without Junie's testimony, which I won't subject her to unless absolutely necessary, we need something ironclad. Harlow studied her brother's face. You want to catch them in the act? Yes. How? August's expression darkened. Marla thinks I'm unhinged. Unstable. Let's give her what she expects. Let her think she's winning. Meanwhile, we set up our own surveillance. Get them talking. Planning. That's dangerous, August. If they realize. They tried to bury my daughter alive. Harlow. They were going to burn her to death in that cabin. There's nothing they can do to me that's worse than what they've already tried to do to her. Harlow was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'm in. But we do this smart. No heroics. Agreed. For the next several days, August played the role Marla expected the grieving father sliding into instability. He drank visibly at the local bar. He missed work. He muttered to himself in public. Meanwhile, Harlow, whose checkered past had left her with connections in the shadier parts of town, acquired surveillance equipment of their own. Together, they planted cameras and microphones in key locations. Marla's car, Bryce's office at the gym, and the cabin in the woods. As August had predicted, Marla wasted no time positioning herself as the victim. She filed for an emergency restraining order, claiming August had threatened her during a psychotic episode. She spoke tearfully to friends about her concern for her husband's mental health. She met with a lawyer about having August committed for psychiatric evaluation. And through it all, August and Harlow watched and listened. 3 days after their confrontation, they got what they were waiting for. Marla and Bryce met at the gym after hours, unaware of the camera hidden in the potted plant beside Bryce's desk. He knows, Marla said without preamble, about everything. He claims Junie is alive. Bryce cursed, running a hand through his carefully styled hair. That's impossible. We checked. We made sure. Well, he says he found her in the coffin before the burial. That she was drugged but breathing. And you believe him? Marla paced the office. I don't know what to believe. He had photos, Bryce. Of the cabin. Of the equipment. Jesus. Bryce sat heavily in his chair. If he goes to the police. He won't. Not yet. He doesn't have enough proof that ties us directly to it. So what's his game? Marla stopped pacing, turning to face her lover. He's trying to scare us. Get us to incriminate ourselves. Bryce leaned forward. Then we need to find the kid. Finish what we started. No. Marla's voice was firm. That's too risky now. We need to discredit him first. Make sure no one would believe him even if he had video of us confessing. How? Marla smiled coldly. I've already started. The restraining order. The rumors about his mental state. Tomorrow I meet with Dr. Richardson about having August committed for evaluation. Once he's labeled unstable, nothing he says will matter. Bryce didn't look convinced. And if that doesn't work, Marla's expression hardened. Then we'll have to be more direct. Watching the video feed from Harlow's apartment, August felt cold fury wash over him. Even now, knowing he'd discovered their plan, they were plotting. Not to run, not to deny, but to eliminate him and find Junie. We've got them, Harlow said, her eyes glued to the screen. This is exactly what we needed. August nodded slowly. But it's still not enough. Their word against ours. We need a confession that can't be explained away. How do we get that? August stared at the frozen image of his wife and her lover, plotting his destruction with casual cruelty. We turned them against each other. The old cabin stood silent in the pre-dawn light, mist curling around the weathered logs. August approached cautiously, though he knew it was empty. The surveillance they'd placed confirmed Marla and Bryce hadn't returned since his discovery. Inside, the air was stale and damp. August moved methodically through the small space, documenting everything with his phone. The chains bolted to the wall. The surveillance equipment. The small cot where his daughter would have spent her final days on the table. He found a notebook he'd missed during his first frantic search. Inside were pages of calculations, expenses, insurance payouts, property values. The cold arithmetic of his daughter's worth to them that a noise outside froze him in place. Footsteps. Someone approaching the cabin. August moved quickly, positioning himself behind the door, a rusted fire poker gripped in his hand. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. August, Harlow's voice was a harsh whisper. "You hear?" August lowered the poker, exhaling sharply. "I told you to stay with Junie." Harlow turned, her face pale in the dim light. "She's safe. Mrs. Weaver is with her." The elderly neighbor was the one person besides Harlow whom August trusted with Junie's location. "I got worried when you didn't answer your phone. I turned it off. Didn't want to risk being tracked." August set down the poker. "What's happening?" Harlow's expression was grim. "Marla's moving fast. She met with Dr. Richardson this morning. They're preparing involuntary commitment papers." August's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" "A day. Maybe less." "She's convincing, August. Playing the terrified, concerned wife perfectly." August held up the notebook he'd found. "This might help. Detailed plans. Calculations. Bryce's handwriting." Harlow took it, flipping through the pages. Jesus. They planned everything, right down to how much they'd make selling the house. "Keep it safe," August instructed. "Add it to the evidence. I need to check one more thing here." As Harlow tucked the notebook into her jacket, August turned his attention to the surveillance equipment. The setup was sophisticated multiple camera feeds, audio recording, everything stored on a hard drive hidden beneath the floorboards. "They've been watching us for months," he said, examining the timestamps on the oldest files. "Planning, waiting for the right moment." In a hidden compartment beneath the sink, he found what he was looking for: more medicine bottles like the ones he'd found at home, but these with their labels intact. "Sedatives," he read. "Powerful ones. Prescribed to Bryce 6 months ago. Can we tie this to Junie's symptoms?" August nodded grimly. "If we could get a blood test, probably. But it's been days since she was last drugged. It might be out of her system." Harlow paced the small cabin. "So what now? We've got evidence they were planning something, but nothing that directly links them to trying to kill Junie. Nothing a good lawyer couldn't explain away." August was quiet for a moment, staring at the chains on the wall. Then he turned to his sister, his expression hard. "We need to talk to Bryce." Alone. Bryce Maddox lived in a modern apartment above his gym, all sleek lines and minimalist furniture. August had watched through the surveillance they'd planted as Bryce came home, showered, and settled in with a protein shake and his laptop. Now, as midnight approached, August slipped into the building through the service entrance, using the key card Harlow had borrowed from one of her less reputable friends. He moved silently up the back stairs, avoiding the cameras in the main hall to T. Bryce's door. He paused, listening. The faint sound of a TV came from inside. August pulled on gloves, then knocked firmly. "Maintenance," he called, disguising his voice. "Water leak in a unit below. Need to check your bathroom." Footsteps approached. The door opened, and Bryce stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his expression changing from annoyed to shocked as he recognized August. Before he could react, August shoved him backward into the apartment, closing the door behind them. "What the hell?" Bryce stumbled, regaining his balance. "You can't be here. There's a restraining order." "Shut up." August's voice was deadly calm. "Sit down." Something in August's expression must have convinced Bryce to comply. He sank onto the leather couch, eyes darting toward his phone on the coffee table. "Don't," August warned. "You won't reach it in time." Bryce raised his hand slightly. "Look, I don't know what Marla told you, but I said shut up." August remained standing, looming over the other man. "I've seen the cabin. I've read your notes. I know everything." Bryce's face paled slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No." August pulled out his phone, playing the video of Bryce and Marla in the gym office. "We need to find the kid. Finish what we started." He stopped the playback. "Sound familiar?" Bryce swallowed hard. "That's not. You're taking that out of context." "Am I?" August stepped closer. "Here's what I know, Bryce. You and my wife were having an affair. My daughter saw you. She became a liability. So you two concocted an elaborate plan to fake her death, collect insurance money, sell our property, and disappear. That's insane. The thing is," August continued as if Bryce hadn't spoken, "Marla doesn't think you're going to make it to San Diego." Bryce blinked. "What?" August sat in the chair across from him, leaning forward. "I heard her talking to someone else yesterday. On a different phone. Not the burner you two have been using. She called you a loose end. Said once the money came through, she'd have to clean up before meeting her real partner in Mexico. It was a lie. but one calculated to hit Bryce where he was most vulnerable, his trust in Marla. August watched as uncertainty flickered across his face. "You're lying," Bryce said, but with less conviction. "Am I?" August pulled out the notebook from the cabin. "I found this today. Your handwriting, your plans. But the interesting part," he flipped to the back pages. "These calculations. Ways to split the money 2 ways, not 3. Notes about how to establish an alibi for a partner's unfortunate accident." The pages were blank, but Bryce couldn't see that from where he sat. August watched the doubt grow in his eyes. Marla wouldn't she? August leaned back. The woman who was willing to bury her own daughter alive? You think she draws the line at eliminating a gym owner with a gambling problem? Bryce's head snapped up. "What did you know about?" "I know everything, Bryce. Everything." August's voice hardened. "Including how the police will find the drugs you used on my daughter in your apartment. How they'll trace the purchases to your credit card. How every piece of evidence will point to you as the mastermind, with Marla as the manipulated, frightened accomplice." Fear replaced doubt in Bryce's eyes. "You can't prove anything." "I don't have to prove it. I just have to plant it." August stood. "Unless you help me." "Help you how?" "Confess. Tell the truth about what you and Marla planned. What you did to my daughter." Bryce laughed, a brittle sound. "And go to prison?" "No thanks." "You're going to prison either way," August said coldly. "The question is whether you go down alone, taking the fall for everything, or you take Marla with you." Silence stretched between them. August could almost see Bryce's mind working, calculating odds, looking for an angle. "What if," Bryce said finally, "I had proof it was all Marla's idea, that she manipulated me?" August's expression didn't change. "Let me guess. You recorded her. Insurance against exactly this scenario." Bryce's surprise confirmed the guess. August nodded slowly. "Smart. Not smart enough, but smart." He stepped closer to Bryce. "Here's what happens next. You give me that recording. You write out a full confession. And in exchange, I'll make sure the judge knows you cooperated. And if I don't," August's smile was cold, "then I leave, and 10 minutes later, the police find enough evidence in this apartment to put you away for life. And Marla walks free with everything she wanted." Bryce considered for a long moment, then nodded. "My laptop. The password is Malibu 2020. There's a folder called Insurance." August moved to the laptop, keeping an eye on Bryce as he accessed the files. Inside the folder were several recordings dates corresponding to meetings with Marla over the past 6 months. In the most damning, dated 2 weeks before Junie's death, Marla's voice came through clearly. "Once she's gone, we'll have everything. The insurance pays double for accidental death. The house will sell for at least $1 million. We'll be set." Bryce's voice. "But drugging her? Isn't there another way?" "Marla, don't go soft on me now. It has to look natural. A tragic illness, a grieving mother. No one will question it. And then freedom." August transferred the files to his phone, his face expressionless despite the rage burning inside him at hearing his wife calmly discuss murdering their daughter. "The confession," he said, turning back to Bryce. "Write it. All of it." Bryce looked broken now, the reality of his situation sinking in. And then you turn yourself in. Tonight, before Marla realizes what you've done. "She'll kill me," Bryce said, his voice barely audible. The August's expression showed no sympathy. "You should have thought of that before you helped her try to kill my daughter." The police station was quiet at 2 a.m. when August walked in, a manila envelope in his hand. The desk sergeant, a weathered veteran named Collier, looked up with surprise. "August? What brings you here at this hour?" August placed the envelope on the counter. "I need to speak with Sheriff Morton. It's urgent." Collier's expression softened with sympathy. "Is this about the restraining order? Because I have to tell you, son, that's not something we can." "It's about attempted murder," August interrupted. "My daughter's." Collier stared at him, confusion evident. "Your daughter? But I was at the funeral, August. She's alive, and I can prove it." The sergeant studied him for a long moment, then reached for the phone. "I'll call the sheriff." 20 minutes later, August sat across from Sheriff Morton in an interview room. The evidence spread between them. The sheriff, a no-nonsense woman who'd known August since he was a boy, examined each item methodically. "Let me get this straight," she said finally. "You're claiming your wife and her lover faked your daughter's death, intending to collect insurance money and sell your property?" August nodded, "and then eliminate Junie as a witness." Morton's face remained neutral. "And you discovered this how?" "I heard her. The night before the funeral. In the coffin." August's voice caught. "She called for me. She was drugged, chained inside, but alive. And instead of calling for help, you took her and hid her. I needed to understand what was happening first. Who was involved? How deep it went." Morton leaned back, studying him. "You realize how this sounds, August?" "I do. That's why I have evidence." He tapped the recordings from Bryce's computer. "This is Marla discussing their plan, the drugs they used, the financial motivation." Morton played portions of the recordings, her expression growing grimmer with each one. When they finished, she looked up at August. "Where's your daughter now?" "Safe. With my sister. I need to see her, August. Verify she's alive and well." August had anticipated this. "I'll take you to her. But first, I need your assurance that she'll remain protected. Marla has connections in this town. Powerful ones." Morton's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting I compromise an investigation due to political pressure?" "No. I'm stating a fact about how things work here." August held her gaze. "My daughter has been through enough. I won't let her become a pawn in some legal chess game." After a moment, Morton nodded. "I'll personally ensure her safety." "You have my word." "There's one more thing," August said, reaching into his pocket. He placed a piece of paper on the table. "Bryce Maddox's confession. He turned himself in an hour ago." Morton's eyebrows rose. "That's convenient." He realized Marla was planning to double-cross him. Self-preservation is a powerful motivator. Morton read through the confession, then looked up at August. "If what you're saying is true, this is one of the most disturbing cases I've ever encountered." "But August," she hesitated, "Marla's already filed reports claiming you're unstable, that you've been making threats, having delusions about Junie still being alive. I expected as much. That's why everything I've given you is independently verifiable. The recordings, the physical evidence from the cabin, Bryce's confession, and most importantly, Junie herself." Morton gathered the evidence, placing it carefully back in the envelope. "I'll need to obtain search warrants. For your home, the cabin, Bryce's apartment. If there's anything else you haven't told me." "There isn't." August lied smoothly, thinking of the surveillance equipment he and Harlow had planted. Some things were better left unexplained. "All right." Morton stood. "Take me to your daughter." Dawn was breaking as August led Sheriff Morton to the small house on the outskirts of town where Junie was now staying. Not Harlow's cabin, they'd moved her to a more secure location after discovering Marla's plans. Mrs. Weaver, the elderly widow who had agreed to help them, opened the door at August's knock. "They're in the kitchen," she said quietly. "The little one just woke up." August led Morton through the tidy house to the bright kitchen at the back. Harlow sat at the table with Junie, helping her eat breakfast. The little girl looked up as they entered, her face lighting up. "Daddy!" August crossed the room in 3 strides, sweeping Junie into his arms. "Hey, Pumpkin, how are you feeling today?" "Better." Aunt Harlow made pancakes. "With blueberries." August held her tightly, still amazed each time he saw her that she was truly alive, truly safe. Over her head, he met Harlow's questioning gaze and gave a small nod that Harlow's shoulders slumped with relief. "About time," she murmured. August turned to Sheriff Morton, who stood in the doorway, her professional demeanor cracking slightly at the sight of the child everyone in town believed was dead. "Sheriff Morton, this is my daughter, Junie." Morton approached slowly, crouching to the little girl's level. "Hello, Junie. I'm Sheriff Morton. I'm a friend of your dad's." Junie regarded her solemnly. "You have a star on your shirt." Morton smiled. "That's right. It means I help people who are in trouble. Like Daddy helped me." "Yes, just like that." Morton looked up at August. "I'll need to have a doctor examine her. Document her condition." August nodded. "Dr. Westfield in the next county. I trust her." "All right." Morton stood. "I'll make the arrangements." In the meantime, she pulled out her phone, stepping away to make a call. When she returned, her expression was grim. I've issued an arrest warrant for Marla Rayner. Officers are on their way to your house now. She won't be there, August said. She's been staying at her parents' since the restraining order. Mort nodded. We'll check there too. She hesitated. August, I should warn you. This is going to get ugly. Marla's father has a lot of influence in this town. In your actions taking Junie, conducting your own investigation, they'll try to use that against you. I know, but I did what I had to do to protect my daughter. August held Morton's gaze. And I'd do it again. After Morton left to coordinate the arrest, Harlow approached August. Is it really happening? Are they finally going to pay for what they did? August watched Junie, happily drawing at the kitchen table, oblivious to the adult conversation. It's starting, but it's not over. Harlow studied her brother's face. What are you thinking? August's expression was hard, determined. That Marla won't go down without a fight. And neither will I. The arrest made headlines. The story of a mother faking her child's death for insurance money was too sensational to ignore. Reporters descended on the small town. Camera crews set up outside the courthouse. And social media exploded with competing narratives. Marla, as August had predicted, fought back hard. She denied everything, claiming August had kidnapped their daughter and concocted an elaborate hoax to frame her. Her father hired the best defense attorneys money could buy, who quickly went to work trying to discredit Bryce's confession and the evidence August had provided. But the physical evidence was overwhelming. The drugs found in Bryce's apartment matched those in Junie's system. The chains in the coffin matched those of the cabin. The surveillance equipment tied everything together. Most damning of all were the recordings of Marla calmly discussing her daughter's death and the financial windfall it would bring 2 weeks after the arrests. August sat in the courtroom, watching as Marla was led and wearing an orange jumpsuit. She looked nothing like the polished, confident woman he'd married. Her hair was limp, her face bare of makeup, dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, their gazes met across the room. August expected to see hatred, defiance. Instead, he saw calculation. Even now, she was looking for an angle, a way out. The preliminary hearing was brief. The judge denied bail, citing the severity of the charges and the risk of flight. As Marla was led away, she turned to look at August one last time. This isn't over, she mouthed. August watched her go, his face expressionless. No, it wasn't over. But for the first time since finding Junie in that coffin, he felt something like victory. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him, shouting questions. Mr. Rayner, how do you feel about your wife's arrest? Did you suspect your wife was planning this all along? Will Junie testify against her mother? August ignored them all, pushing through the crowd to where Harlow waited with the car. How'd it go? She asked as he slid into the passenger seat. Bail denied. Trial set for next month. August stared out the window as they pulled away from the courthouse. She looked different. Prison tends to do that to people, Harlow said dryly. How's Junie today? August's expression softened. Better. The nightmares are less frequent. Dr. Westfield says the drugs are completely out of her system, and the psychological evaluation scheduled for next week. August sighed. They want her to testify, Harlow. The prosecutor says her statement would be powerful evidence. Harlow's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She's 3 years old, August. She's been through enough. I know. I told them no. They'll have to make their case without her. They drove in silence for a while, each lost in thought. What about you? Harlow asked finally. How are you holding up? August continued staring out the window. I'm fine. That's bullshit, and we both know it. He turned to look at her. What do you want me to say, Harlow? That I'm devastated? Angry? That I lie awake wondering how the woman I loved could try to murder our child? Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I want you to say. Harlow pulled the car over and turned to face him. You haven't processed any of this, August. You've been in survival mode since the moment you found Junie. But sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with what happened. August looked away. I'm dealing with it. No, you're not. You're shutting down, going through the motions. Harlow's voice softened. Junie needs you, August. Not just physically present, but emotionally too. She's going to have questions as she gets older. Hard ones. August closed his eyes briefly. I know. So talk to me. Tell me what you're feeling. For a moment, August was silent. When he spoke, His voice was barely audible. "I want to kill her," he said simply. "Every time I think about what she did, what she was planning to do, I want to wrap my hand around her throat and squeeze until she stops breathing." He looked at his sister, his eyes haunted. "What kind of person does that make me?" "Human," Harlow answered without hesitation. "It makes you human, August. Anyone would feel that way, would they?" August turned back to the window. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm becoming like her. Cold, calculating. You're nothing like her," Harlow said firmly. "Everything you've done has been to protect Junie. Everything Marla did was to destroy her." August nodded slowly, but Harlow could see he wasn't convinced. "Let's go home," he said. "Junie will be wondering where we are." As Harlow pulled back onto the road, August returned to staring out the window, his reflection in the glass as hard and unreadable as stone. The weeks leading up to the trial passed in a blur of legal meetings, therapy sessions for Junie, and endless media coverage. August kept his daughter isolated from the circus, creating a protective bubble around her with Harlow's help. But the strain was beginning to show. August barely slept, spending his nights patrolling the property, checking locks, jumping at shadows. During the day, he was focused, determined, the perfect father but hollow inside, running on nothing but the need to ensure Junie's safety and Marla's conviction. "You're wearing yourself down," Harlow told him one evening after Junie had gone to bed. "You can't keep this up." August continued cleaning his hunting rifle, a task he'd taken to performing nightly. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're a walking ghost." Harlow took the cleaning rod from his hands, forcing him to look at her. "The security system is on. The doors are locked. No one is getting past US to hurt Junie." August took back the rod, resuming his methodical cleaning. "Marla's father hired a new lawyer yesterday, some hotshot from Portland who specializes in mental health defenses." Harlow frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means they're going to claim Marla suffered from postpartum psychosis, that she wasn't in her right mind when she planned all this. That's ridiculous. Junie is 3 years old. Postpartum psychosis happens right after birth." August shrugged. "They'll argue it was untreated, that it got worse over time. They've already lined up an expert witness to testify about it." Harlow studied her brother's face. "What about Bryce? Is he still cooperating?" A flicker of something satisfaction crossed August's face. "For now, but his lawyer is pushing for a deal. Reduced charges in exchange for testifying against Marla." His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from an unknown number. "Need to talk. Important. About M. Meet at the bar. 10 p.m. August stared at the message. Bryce was supposed to be in jail awaiting trial. Had he made bail? Or was this a trap? Only one way to find out. The Timberwolf was the kind of bar that catered to locals, not tourists. August arrived at 10:15, deliberately late, scanning the room carefully before entering. In the back booth, partially hidden by shadows, sat Bryce Maddox. He looked diminished, somehow thinner, paler, the cockiness gone from his posture. His lawyer sat beside him, an older man with shrewd eyes who watched August approach with obvious wariness. "You came," Bryce said as August slid into the booth across from them. "You said it was important." August kept his hands on the table, visible. "How are you even here?" The lawyer answered. "Mr. Maddox has been released on his own recognizance, pending cooperation with the prosecution." He extended a hand. "Martin Weber, I represent Mr. Maddox." August ignored the hand. "What do you want?" Bryce glanced at his lawyer, who nodded slightly. "She's planning something," Bryce said, leaning forward. "Marla, she got a message to me in jail. Said if I testified against her, I'd never make it to the witness stand." August studied him, looking for signs of deception. "And now you're concerned for your safety? Wouldn't you be?" Bryce ran a hand through his hair, no longer carefully styled. August noted. "Her father has connections. Deep ones. People who can make problems disappear." "What kind of message? How did she get it to you?" Bryce shook his head. "I don't know. It was just there in my cell one morning." "A note. Do you still have it?" "No. It said to destroy it after reading." August's eyes narrowed. "Convenient." Weber interjected. "Mr. Rayner, we're not here to play games. My client is taking a significant risk even speaking with you. He believes Mrs. Rayner is not only a threat to him, but potentially to your daughter as well. That got August's attention. Explain. Bryce leaned closer. The note mentioned unfinished business. Said that once she was cleared, she'd tie up loose ends. Both of them. Both, August repeated. Me and Junie. Bryce nodded. Look, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I'm trying to do the right thing here. For your kid, if nothing else. August considered this. It could be a trap, an attempt to manipulate him into some action that would undermine the case. Or it could be genuine Bryce trying to save his own skin by warning August. What do you want from me? August asked finally. Bryce exchanged looks with his lawyer again. Protection. Security. And in exchange, I'll give you everything. Every conversation, every plan, every detail about what Marla was really up to. I thought you'd already done that. Bryce's laugh was bitter. I told the police what they needed to know. But there's more. Things I held back as insurance. Such as, she never intended to share the money with me. Bryce's voice hardened. I found out she was working with someone else. Someone she's been involved with for years. I was just the local convenient option, the one who'd take the fall if things went wrong. August felt a cold certainty settle over him. Who? I don't know a name, but I have recordings. Different ones than what I gave you before. Conversations where she's talking to someone else. Planning how to frame me, if necessary. Weber pulled a flash drive from his pocket, placing it on the table. Everything's on here. But before we hand it over, we need assurances. August stared at the small device. What kind of assurances? Witness protection. A recommendation to the judge for leniency. In your testimony that my client was manipulated by Mrs. Rayner. August looked from the lawyer to Bryce. Contempt evident in his expression. You helped plan my daughter's murder. And now you want me to help you avoid the consequences. Bryce's face flushed. I never wanted to hurt your kid. That was all Marla. I just went along because... He cut himself off. Because you're weak, August finished. Because you wanted the money and didn't care who got hurt as long as it wasn't you. Weber placed a restraining hand on Bryce's arm. Mr. Rayner, I understand your anger, but consider the value of what we're offering. This evidence could ensure Mrs. Rayner never sees freedom again. August was quiet for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he nodded toward the flash drive. I'll need to verify what's on there before I agree to anything. Weber pushed it across the table. Of course, but I suggest you do so quickly. The trial starts in 2 weeks, and my client's safety is at risk every day until then. August pocketed the drive. I'll be in touch. As he stood to leave, Bryce grabbed his arm. There's one more thing. Marla kept a second phone. Well, I didn't know about until near the end. She used it to communicate with whoever she's really working with. August looked down at Bryce's hand until he removed it. Where is this phone? I don't know. But in the recordings, she mentions keeping it in her special place. Maybe that means something to you. August thought back to their years together. Marla had never been sentimental about places, had no particular attachment to any corner of their home. Except, maybe, he said noncommittally, I'll let you know what I decide. Outside, August leaned against his truck, processing the conversation. If Bryce was telling the truth, Marla's plans were even more elaborate than he'd imagined, and possibly still in motion that he needed to hear those recordings. And he needed to find that second phone. The Rayner house stood empty and still, yellow police tape still draped across the front door crime scene, even weeks after the arrests. August ducked under it, using his key to enter the home he'd built with his own hands, the home that now felt tainted by betrayal. Inside, dust had settled over the furniture, the air stale and undisturbed. August moved through the rooms silently, memories assaulting him with each step. Junie's first steps in the living room, family dinners in the kitchen. His and Marla's life, together a life he now understood had been built on lies that in the master bedroom. August went straight to Marla's vanity, an ornate piece her father had given her as a wedding present. Behind the mirror, just as she described in the recording, was a small wall safe. August ran his fingers along the edge, feeling for the hidden latch. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside were documents, property deeds, insurance policies, bank statements, and, nestled among them, a sleek black phone. August pocketed it, then methodically went through the other contents. Most were what he expected: financial records, jewelry, a passport. But at the bottom of the safe, he found something that made his blood run cold: a small notebook, filled with what appeared to be a log of drugs administered to Junie. Dates, times, dosages, effects. Clinical observations of his daughter's deteriorating health, written in Marla's precise handwriting that she'd been poisoning Junie for months, carefully documenting the process like some twisted science experiment that August's hands shook as he flipped through the pages, rage building with each clinical note. The final entry, dated the day before Junie's death, simply read, "Final dose administered. Subject ready for transportation." Subject, not daughter, not Junie. Subject. August slipped the notebook into his jacket alongside the phone, then continued his search. In a box at the back of Marla's closet, he found more evidence of her methodical planning: brochures for properties in San Diego, information on offshore accounts, and a folder containing detailed research on untraceable poisons. Up by the time he left the house, August had accumulated enough additional evidence to bury Marla for life. But it was the phone that interested him most, the direct line to whoever had been helping her from the shadows. Back in his truck, August examined the device. It was password protected, but he had an idea what the code might be. Marla always used the same pattern for her passwords: significant dates in her life, backwards. He tried her birthday. Nothing. Her mother's birthday. Nothing. Then, on a hunch, he tried the date they'd met the day she claimed to have fallen in love with him. The phone unlocked. August scrolled through the messages, his expression growing darker with each one. The conversations were with a contact listed only as he. The message is cryptic but clearly referring to the plan to eliminate Junie and August. Assets secured. Marla had texted the night of the funeral. Phase 1 complete. The response: proceed to Phase 2. Cabin prepared. Reading through the exchange, August pieced together the full scope of their plan. After the funeral, Marla was to wait a respectable few weeks, then use the restraining order as cover to sell the house. Once the money was secured, it would eliminate Junie at the cabin, a tragic accident, while Marla established an alibi. Then, with August emotionally destroyed and financially ruined, they would arrange a similar accident for him. Marla would collect the life insurance, inherit everything, and disappear with her real partner. The most recent message, sent just 2 days ago, chilled August to the bone. Contingency plan activated. Need cleanup at the cabin. Tonight. August checked the outgoing messages. Marla hadn't responded. She couldn't. She was in jail. But he was still active, still planning, still a threat. And they were heading to the cabin. Tonight, August started the truck, adrenaline coursing through him. He needed to get to the cabin before whoever he was. He needed to be ready. Instead of calling Harlow, he sent her a brief text: staying late at the workshop. Don't wait up. Junie's meds in the cabinet if she needs them. Then he turned off his phone, put the truck in gear, and headed for the mountains and the trap he intended to set. The cabin was just as he remembered it, isolated and foreboding in the gathering dusk. August approached cautiously, using the hunting skills he'd learned as a boy to move silently through the underbrush and no signs of anyone inside. Not yet, but they would come. The message had been clear. August circled the structure, checking for any changes since his last visit. The police had removed most of the evidence, but the basic setup remained: chains on the wall, the small cot, the surveillance equipment now dormant. Perfect. Just as he'd hoped. Working quickly, August prepared. He positioned himself in the dense woods surrounding the cabin, settled into the natural blind formed by a fallen tree, and waited, his hunting rifle beside him. Hours passed. The forest grew dark, then darker still as clouds obscured the moon. August remained motionless, his senses attuned to every sound, every shift in the night air. Just after midnight, he heard the soft crunch of tires on gravel, quickly cut as an engine died. Then footsteps, moving with purpose toward the cabin, that a beam of light cut through the darkness, sweeping the area before settling on the cabin door. August watched as a figure approached, tall, male, moving with the confidence of someone who believed they were alone. The man entered the cabin, the beam of his flashlight visible through the dirty windows as he moved around inside. August remained still, watching waiting for the right moment. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the man emerged, making a call on his phone. "It's clear," he said, his voice carrying in the still night air. No sign of the kid or the sister. Must have moved them. He paused, listening. "Yeah, I'll keep looking. Check the other places we discussed. Don't worry, they won't get far." August had heard enough. He raised his rifle, sighting along the barrel at the man silhouetted against the cabin. One squeeze of the trigger, and the threat would be eliminated. Simple. Final, but no. That would be too quick, too merciful, and it would leave too many questions unanswered. Instead, August lowered the rifle and reached for the tranquilizer gun he'd brought as a backup, a tool he'd used for years to sedate injured wildlife before transportation. The dart hit the man in the neck, the impact causing him to drop his phone with a curse. He reached up, pulling out the dart, but it was too late. The sedative worked quickly as the man's knees buckled. August emerged from his hiding place, moving swiftly to catch him before he hit the ground in the beam of the fallen flashlight. August recognized him, Edward Talbot, Marla's father's head of security, the man who had attended their wedding, who had helped August install the alarm system in their home, who had bounced Junie on his knee at family gatherings. "Hello, Edward," August said quietly, dragging the semi-conscious man into the cabin. "We need to talk." When Edward regained consciousness, he found himself in a familiar position chained to the wall of the cabin, just as Junie had been intended to be. August sat across from him, cleaning his hunting knife with methodical precision. "Welcome back," August said without looking up. Edward tugged at the chains, his expression transitioning from confusion to anger. "What the hell is this, Raynor?" "Justice," August replied simply. "Or the beginning of it. You've lost your mind. When I don't report back." "To who?" August finally looked up. "Marla's in jail. Her father thinks you're checking on one of his properties upstate. No one knows you're here, Edward. No one's coming to save you." Edward fell silent, assessing his situation with the calculated calm of a professional. "So what's your plan? Torture me? Kill me?" A cold smile spread across his face. "You don't have it in you, August. You're a builder, not a destroyer. That's why Marla chose you soft, malleable, easy to manipulate." August continued, cleaning his knife. "You're right. I'm a builder. I built a life, a home, a family." He set the knife down. "And you and Marla try to destroy all of it." He stood, moving to a table where he'd laid out the evidence he'd collected: the phone, the notebook, printed copies of the messages between Marla and E. "I know everything, Edward. The plan to kill my daughter, the surveillance, the poison, all of it." August's voice remained calm, controlled. "What I don't know is why. Why you? What did Marla offer that was worth becoming a child killer?" Edward's expression changed. A flicker of something: regret? Fear? Crossing his face before he masked it. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." For a long moment, Edward was silent, his eyes never leaving August's face. Then he sighed. "She's my daughter." August blinked. "What?" "Marla. She's my daughter." Edward laughed bitterly at August's confusion. "Not Jack Henley's little princess. Mine. A product of an affair with his wife 28 years ago." August struggled to process this. "Jack doesn't know. No one knows except Catherine, Marla's mother, and us. Jack thinks she's his. Always has." Edward leaned back against the wall. "I've watched my daughter from the shadows her entire life. Protected her. Supported her. When she came to me with this plan, how could I refuse her anything? Even murder?" August's voice hardened. "She's your granddaughter." "A mistake," Edward spat. "A complication Marla never wanted. You pressured her into having a child, August. Something she never desired." August thought back to the early days of their marriage. Marla had seemed happy about the pregnancy, had seemed to love Junie in those first months. Had it all been an act? "So the two of you plotted to kill an innocent child. For money. For freedom," Edward corrected. "For Marla to finally have the life she deserves." August studied the man before him, a father so twisted by his secret love for his daughter that he'd become an accomplice to the most heinous of crimes. "You're going to confess," August said, his decision made. "All of it. Your relationship with Marla. The plan. Your role. Everything." Edward laughed. "Or what? You'll kill me? Then you'll never have your proof." "I don't need to kill you. August picked up Edward's phone from the table. 10 minutes ago, I sent a message to Sheriff Morton from this phone. She's on her way here now, along with the FBI agents who've been consulting on the case. Edward's face paled. You're bluffing. Check for yourself. August held up the phone, showing the sent message a full confession, detailing Edward's relationship with Marla and their plot, along with the cabin's coordinates. You'll never prove any of this, Edward said, but the confidence was gone from his voice. It's your word against mine. No. August gestured to the corner of the cabin, where a small red light blinked on the surveillance equipment. It's your word against yours. I've been recording since the moment you woke up. As if on cue, the distant wail of sirens echoed through the forest. August gathered the evidence, placing it carefully in a bag. They'll be here soon, he said, moving toward the door. You might want to start thinking about what kind of deal you can make. Marla's already looking for someone to blame. Might as well be you. As August stepped outside to wait for the authorities, he felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. Not happiness, he wasn't sure he would ever feel that again, but satisfaction. The knowledge that the people who had tried to destroy his family would pay for their crimes. Justice his way. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with spectators eager to witness the sensational conclusion to what the media had dubbed the Coffin conspiracy. August sat in the front row, directly in Marla's line of sight, his expression impassive as the jury filed in. The trial had lasted 3 weeks, a parade of damning evidence and testimony, culminating in Edward Talbot's devastating account of the plot he and Marla had orchestrated. In exchange for leniency, he'd revealed everything: their biological relationship, the years of secret planning, the cold calculation with which they'd targeted August and Junie. Marla had maintained her composure throughout, her face a mask of injured innocence, as her attorneys argued that she was a victim of Edward's manipulation, of postpartum depression, of a system that had failed to recognize her mental illness. But the evidence was overwhelming. The medication log, the recordings, the testimony from medical experts confirming that Junie had been systematically poisoned. And most damning of all, Marla's own words and messages to Edward, discussing her daughter as an obstacle to be removed. Now, as the jury foreman stood to deliver the verdict, a hush fell over the courtroom. On the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, we find the defendant, Marla Rayner, guilty. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. August remained still, his eyes fixed on Marla as the foreman continued through the list of charges: conspiracy, child endangerment, fraud, attempted kidnapping. Guilty on all counts. That Marla's composure finally cracked. She turned to look at August, her eyes burning with hatred and something else, disbelief. As if she couldn't comprehend that her perfect plan had failed, that the husband she'd dismissed as too trusting, too simple, had outsmarted her. As the judge called for order in the now buzzing courtroom, August stood. He'd said what needed to be said during his testimony: clinical, factual, devastatingly effective. He had no desire to watch Marla's sentencing, to hear her tearful pleas for mercy that would inevitably follow. Outside, reporters swarmed him, shouting questions. Mr. Rayner, how do you feel about the verdict? Will you be making a statement at the sentencing? Is it true you're moving away from Oak Ridge? August pushed past them without comment, making his way to where Harlow waited with the car. It's over, she said as he slid into the passenger's seat. August nodded, staring out the window as she drove away from the courthouse. For now. Harlow glanced at him. What does that mean? Marla's father is still out there. Still powerful. Still angry. Jack Henley? He cut all ties with Marla after learning about her and Edward. Publicly, yes. But a man like that doesn't just walk away from his daughter, biological or not, without some kind of retribution. August turned to his sister. He blames me for exposing the affair, for destroying his family's reputation. Harlow frowned. You can't seriously think he'd come after you or Junie. I don't know. And that's the problem. August's jaw tightened. I won't take chances. Not anymore. So what's the plan? We finish packing today. Leave for the new place tomorrow. Harlow nodded, understanding. After the arrests, August had purchased a property in a neighboring county, remote, defensible, unknown to anyone outside their immediate circle. A fresh start, away from the whispers and stares of a town that would never let them forget what had happened. Junie's excited about the horses, Harlow said, trying to lighten the mood. She's been talking about nothing else all week. A ghost of a smile touched August's lips. She'll be good with them. She has a gentle way about her. They drove in silence for a while, the weight of the verdict settling around them. Finally, Harlow asked the question that had been bothering her. Do you ever think about forgiving her? Not for her sake, but for yours. August turned to stare at his sister. Forgiving Marla? Yes. Letting go of the anger. Moving on. August looked away, his profile hard against the afternoon sun. Would you forgive someone who tried to murder your child? No, Harlow admitted. Probably not. There's no probably about it. Some things are unforgivable. August's voice was quiet but firm. I don't need forgiveness to move on. I need justice. And today we got it. When they arrived home, the small rental they'd been staying in since leaving the house, Junie ran to meet them, her face alight with excitement. Daddy, Aunt Harlow, I drawed a picture of our new house. August swept her into his arms, the tension in his face softening as he held his daughter. Did you now? Let's see this masterpiece. Junie proudly presented her drawing, a colorful crayon rendition of a house surrounded by trees, with stick figures representing their family. That's you, she explained, pointing to the tallest figure. And that's me, and that's Aunt Harlow, and that's our new doggy we're going to get. August raised an eyebrow at Harlow, who shrugged innocently. A doggy. Huh, he said, carrying Junie into the house. We'll have to talk about that. As he listened to his daughter chatter about the dog, she wanted a big one, with floppy ears. Named Pancake, August felt something loosen in his chest. Not forgiveness. Never that. But perhaps the first tentative step toward healing. 6 months later, August stood on the porch of their new home, watching as Junie played with the puppy they'd finally adopted, a golden retriever mix with, indeed, very floppy ears. Pancake, true to Junie's vision. The property stretched out before him, 20 acres of woodland and pasture, with a small stable he'd built housing the pair of gentle horses that were Junie's pride and joy. The house itself was modest but solid, built with his own hands over the past months. Harlow emerged from inside, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to August, following his gaze to where Junie was teaching Pancake to sit. She's doing well, Harlow observed. The nightmares are almost gone. August nodded. The therapist says she's resilient. That with time and support, she'll process what happened in a healthy way. And her father? Harlow asked gently. How's he processing things? August took a sip of his coffee. I'm fine. Still not sleeping through the night, though. He shrugged. Old habits. Junie waved, calling for him to come see Pancake's new trick. August waved back, setting down his coffee cup. She's going to be okay, Harlow said, watching them. You both are. August nodded, stepping off the porch. Yes, he agreed. We are. As he walked toward his daughter, August felt the weight of the past year, the betrayal, the fear, the rage begin to lift just slightly. Not forgiveness. Never that. But perhaps, finally, the beginning of freedom. Junie ran to meet him, throwing her arms around his legs. Daddy, watch what Pancake can do. August knelt down, pulling her into a proper hug. Show me, Pumpkin. As he watched his daughter command the eager puppy, August knew with absolute certainty that he'd made the right choices. Marla had taken everything from him, his trust, his peace of mind, his belief in the goodness of people, that he had taken back more.